Oliver Brooks had exactly $4 in his wallet, a 6-year-old daughter who refused to leave the house without her purple unicorn backpack, and a coffee cup that was one sneeze away from disaster. Naturally, that sneeze came the moment he turned the corner and slammed directly into a woman in heels so tall they looked like they should have come with a parachute. Hot coffee exploded all over her cream-colored coat. Oh my God. "I'm so sorry." Oliver dropped the cup and immediately started fumbling for napkins from his pocket. "I didn't see you. My daughter spilled juice on my shirt this morning, and I swear I'm not usually." "It's okay," the woman said, blinking down at the stain spreading across her chest. "Truly? No, it's not. I ruined your coat. You probably paid what, $100 for this thing?" "8,000, she said calmly. Oliver choked. "8 what?" She looked up at him then. Her hair was pulled back into a sleek ponytail, her cheekbones could cut glass, and her navy blue eyes were so sharp they stopped his breath in place. "I'm kidding," she added, lips twitching. "It's just a coat." He stared at her, stunned. "Are you sure you're okay?" She nodded slowly. "You're shaking." "I've had 3 jobs this week, and I just killed your very expensive-looking outfit. Pretty sure my hands are allowed to panic." "3 jobs," she repeated, interest flickering in her eyes. "I'm a single dad. Gotta keep the lights on. I do food delivery, drive for rideshare, and I work nights at a warehouse." He winced. "Which I am now late for." "Great." She extended her hand. "I'm Bianca Sullivan," he blinked. "You're giving me your name. After I baptized you in caffeine, you looked like you needed someone not to yell at you today." He let out a breathy laugh. "Oliver Brooks, and thank you seriously. You're weirdly cool about this." She glanced down at her coat. "Well, I've survived worse than an Americano bath." A small, high-pitched voice interrupted them. "Daddy." A little girl sprinted toward Oliver, her unicorn backpack bouncing with every step. "You forgot Zuzu." Oliver turned just in time to catch the stuffed sloth she threw at him. "Zara, I told you to stay in the booth where I could see you," he said, crouching to her level. "I needed to pee." "Oh no," Bianca chuckled. "She's adorable." Zara tilted her head. "Who's the fancy lady?" This is Miss Sullivan." "I spilled coffee on her." "On purpose?" "No," Bianca crouched beside them. "It's okay, sweetheart. Your dad was just having a rough morning." Zara studied her, then whispered loud enough for everyone to hear, "You're really pretty. Are you a princess?" Bianca smiled. "Not quite." Oliver stood, flushing. "Okay, we'll get out of your hair now. I need to drop Zara at my neighbor's and get to work." "Wait," Bianca said. "Let me buy you a coffee, a dry one, and maybe a new shirt." He laughed awkwardly. "I don't think I'm your target audience, Bianca." "Why not?" He looked at her again, really looked. The heels, the coat, the way she carried herself like she owned the street. "You're not exactly from my world." She tilted her head. "You don't know what world I'm from." He hesitated. "I can't afford to pay you back for anything." "I didn't ask you to." Zara tugged on his hand. "Daddy, she's nice." Bianca gave her a wink. "Very nice." Oliver chewed the inside of his cheek. "I have 15 minutes before my shift starts. There's a café across the street." He hesitated, then sighed. "Okay, but you have to let me buy you a muffin or something. I'll find a way." She just smiled again and led the way. The café smelled like cinnamon and burnt espresso. Bianca ordered a latte and a blueberry muffin, then turned and ordered a chocolate milk and a kvass for Zara before Oliver could open his mouth. "You didn't have to, it's just food, Oliver." He lowered his voice. "You don't know what just food means to someone like me." She paused, then said, "You work hard, that's clear, and you're raising her alone." He nodded. "Zara's mom left when she was 2, never looked back." "I'm sorry, I'm not. She didn't want to be a mom." "I'd rather do it alone than have her come and go." Bianca studied him for a long moment. "You're a good dad." "I try." Zara returned from the bathroom with chocolate milk on her chin. "Daddy, this place has real napkins." Bianca laughed. "You two are my favorite people I've met all week. You must have had a terrible week." She raised her cup. "You have no idea." They sat in the corner booth, the 3 of them crammed together like they'd done it 100 times. Bianca asked questions: what Zara liked to eat, what Oliver watched to unwind, how he managed to stay awake working nights and mornings. He asked nothing about her, not because he didn't want to, but because he didn't want to ruin the moment. She was so far out of his league, it was laughable. But when she laughed at his dumb jokes and listened like he mattered, something shifted in his chest. And when she handed Zara her number on a napkin and said, "Tell your dad to use this if he ever wants to talk again," Oliver felt something he hadn't felt in years: hope. The next day he did call her, and the next week they met again. And again, sometimes with Zara in tow, sometimes just the two of them walking through the park or grabbing late-night tacos after his shift. He never asked what she did for work, and she never offered. But she always paid, and he always argued, and she always won. After 3 weeks, she invited him to a dinner. "I probably shouldn't," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "I mean, I don't have anything to wear to a real restaurant." "I already took care of that," she said, handing him a box. Inside was a brand new dress shirt, slacks, and a pair of polished shoes that looked more expensive than his car. "I can't accept this." "You already did," she said, walking away. He wore the outfit that night. And when he showed up at the restaurant, he realized just how little he knew about Bianca Sullivan. Because the maitre d' greeted her by name, because the chef came out to hug her, because the car she arrived in had a driver. And because when he asked, "Bianca, who are you, really?" she looked him in the eye and said, "I'm someone who likes you, a lot." And for now, that was enough. Oliver adjusted the cuffs of the shirt she'd given him, trying not to look like he was casing the place. The restaurant's walls were lined with flickering sconces, and the velvet booths looked like they'd never known a spilled juice box. He took in the polished marble floors, the quiet music that seemed to come from nowhere, and the way the waitstaff moved like dancers. Bianca had already ordered a bottle of wine before he arrived. She didn't ask if he wanted any. She simply poured it, handed him the glass, and said, "I figured tonight we skip the weather and talk about something interesting." He took the glass, but only held it. "Like, tell me something you've never said out loud." Oliver hesitated. "That's a pretty big ask. I'm not exactly a small talk kind of woman." He exhaled slowly and looked down at the pristine tablecloth. "I almost didn't keep her." Bianca's expression didn't shift, but her eyes stilled. "When Zara was born, I panicked. I was 21. I couldn't afford formula, let alone a crib. Her mom was already gone. I sat in that hospital room for hours and thought about calling social services, just to ask, just to see what they'd say." He swallowed. "But then she opened her eyes and stared at me like she already knew I was about to screw up and forgave me anyway. I've been trying to deserve that look ever since." "You do," Bianca said softly. "You deserve it." He didn't meet her gaze. "What about you?" "Something you've never told anyone." She leaned back, eyes flicking toward the candle between them. "My mother left when I was 9. She married a man in Monaco and sent me letters for a year, then she just stopped. My father said she'd moved on, that I should too. Did you?" I pretended to. "I built a life filled with noise parties, deals, attention. But the silence she left never really went away." Oliver put down his glass. "That's why you're always surrounded by people, but you still look lonely sometimes." She blinked. "You notice that?" "I notice a lot more than you think." The waiter reappeared with plates that looked like they belonged in a museum. Bianca thanked him, but Oliver barely touched his food. He was watching her hands, her posture, the way she never fidgeted. "You're not just successful," he said carefully. "You're powerful. People look at you like they're waiting for a command." She didn't deny it. "I run a consulting firm, private equity, restructuring, acquisitions. I built it from scratch after college. Let me guess, Ivy League, Wharton." "Full ride," he nodded slowly. "So you're not just rich, you're the kind of rich that builds other rich people." "I don't do it for them," she said. "I do it for control. I grew up feeling like everything could be taken away in a second. I swore I'd never feel that powerless again." That landed heavier than she'd intended, and she reached for her wine. Oliver leaned in slightly. "You've got everything people chase, but you still show up to a taco truck at midnight with a guy who can't even afford the gas to get across town." "Why?" She met his eyes. "Because you're not chasing anything. You're not trying to impress me or win me or flatter me. You just show up. I don't know how to be anything else. That's why I like you." He looked down at his plate. "You sure about that? Because I'm not good at this. Dating people, I haven't had time. I'm not asking for perfect, Oliver. I'm asking for honest." He looked up. "You already got that." The waiter returned with dessert menus, but Bianca closed hers immediately. "We're not staying." Oliver raised an eyebrow. We're not. I want to take you somewhere. He followed her out, ignoring the curious glances from the staff who seemed far too familiar with her. A black car with tinted windows waited at the curb. The driver opened the door without a word. Where are we going? He asked once they were inside. You'll see. She didn't elaborate. The ride was quiet, but not uncomfortable. She pulled off her heels and tucked her feet under her, glancing out the window as the city lights blurred past. He watched her reflection instead of the skyline. Eventually, the car slowed in front of a colossal wrought iron gate. Cameras tracked their movement as they passed, and the driveway curved through manicured grounds that looked more like a royal estate than a home. Oliver sat forward. This is your place, she nodded. Technically, the trust owns it. But yes. The car stopped in front of a modern mansion with clean lines, floor-to-ceiling glass, and a fountain that probably had better plumbing than his entire building. He stepped out slowly. I think I just crossed into another tax bracket by breathing the air here. Bianca laughed. Come on, I want to show you something. Inside, the house was silent and impossibly spacious. Art lined the walls, real art, not prints. A grand piano sat untouched in the corner, and the furniture looked like it had been chosen by a designer who didn't believe in fingerprints. She led him to a side hallway, then opened a door to reveal a room that looked completely different from the rest of the house. There were blankets on every surface, fairy lights strung across the ceiling, and a short bookshelf filled with well-worn paperbacks. This was my retreat when I first moved in, she said. Before the staff, before the renovations. I kept it the same to remind myself of what it felt like to be normal. Oliver walked in slowly, running a hand over the spines of the books. You read romance. Every night, you don't seem like the type. Because I wear heels and close deals. Because you carry yourself like you don't need anyone. She looked at him, then stepped closer. Maybe I don't need anyone, she said, but I want someone. He didn't answer. His hands were still at his sides. Unsure of where they fit in a room like this, in a night like this, she reached for him. And softly, deliberately kissed him. It wasn't urgent. It wasn't hungry. It was quiet and steady and full of something he didn't know how to name yet. When they pulled apart, she whispered, "Stay." He hesitated. "I have to be up at 5, he said eventually. "Zara's got a recital and I promised I'd braid her hair like Elsa." Bianca smiled slightly. "Then go, but come back." He stepped back, nodding once. And as he left the room, she sat down among the blankets and stared at the door he'd just walked through. For the first time in years, she didn't feel alone in her own home. The sky was a soft gray when Oliver parked outside the community center. The building looked smaller than usual, or maybe it was just that everything in his life had started to feel like it didn't quite fit anymore. He checked the mirror one last time, fixed Zara's braid so it stayed tucked behind her ear, and walked her inside, holding her hand until they reached her dance class. "Daddy," she said, tugging his sleeve. "You're gonna come watch, right?" "Of course." "I'll be right out there." He pointed to the row of folding chairs by the door. Zara gave him a quick hug before running to join her group. Oliver sat down, rubbing his hands together, still trying to shake off the memory of Bianca's kiss. It had been a week since that night. He hadn't stayed. He'd gone home and laid awake until sunrise, staring at the ceiling, wondering what it meant that she wanted him in her world. She hadn't called. He hadn't either. He didn't know how to want something he couldn't understand. The sound of soft footsteps beside him snapped him out of his thoughts. A familiar voice spoke. "Reserved seat taken," he turned, too fast. Bianca stood there in jeans, a navy coat, and boots that looked far more practical than anything he'd seen her wear before. Her hair was down, curled at the ends, and she didn't look like a woman who belonged in boardrooms or behind tinted windows. She looked like she belonged here, with him. "I didn't expect you," he said. "I figured that was safer." He shifted in his seat. "How did you even know where this was?" "I asked Zara last week when you were inside getting her snack. She told me everything, including that you braid her hair better than anyone." He exhaled a quiet laugh. "She's a talker. I like that about her." Bianca sat down beside him. "I missed this. We only did it once. I meant being around you." He looked at the floor. "I don't know what this is supposed to be, neither do I. That's not helpful. I didn't come here to pressure you, Oliver. I came because I realized something." He glanced at her, cautious. "What?" I kept waiting for you to ask me what I wanted, what I expected from you, but you never did. And then I realized you weren't asking because you didn't think you had anything to offer." He didn't answer. Bianca leaned forward, elbows on her knees. "I've been in rooms with presidents. I've negotiated contracts that could bankrupt cities, but I've never seen someone fight as hard as you do for something as simple as a normal day. I don't have the luxury of letting it fall apart. I know, and that's exactly why I'm here." He looked over at her. "You want me to just fit into your life? Be the guy showing up at charity galas in rental tuxes while everyone whispers about how I got there?" "No," she said. "I want to build something that's ours, not mine, not yours. Something that doesn't look like anyone else's life." "That's easy for you to say. You can buy your way out of every problem. I can't buy peace or time or the way your daughter looks at you like you built the stars." His throat tightened. "I didn't come here to convince you," she added. "I came because I wanted to see you and her. That's it." Zara's music started, and a group of tiny dancers ran onto the floor. Oliver spotted his daughter immediately. She waved at him before spinning into formation, her feet slightly out of sync but her grin steady and sure. Bianca clapped softly. "She's got your focus. She's got her own kind of fire," he said. "I just keep it lit." They watched in silence until the end, and when the parents stood to applaud, Bianca stayed seated. She reached into her coat and pulled out a folded envelope. "I wasn't going to give this to you today," she said, "but maybe it's better this way." He took it confused. "What is it?" "An offer. For a property I just bought. It's a small space, not a gift, a job." He blinked. "You're giving me a job, I'm offering you one. Managing a community café we're opening in the city. We need someone who understands what people need, not just what looks good on paper. You'd have full benefits, a steady salary, and a flexible schedule so you can always be there when she needs you." He stared at the envelope. "Why would you do this?" "Because I'm tired of pretending I don't want you in my life, and because I believe in you." Zara came bounding over, cheeks flushed. "Did you see me? I didn't trip this time." Oliver knelt, pulling her into a hug. "You were amazing." Bianca crouched beside them. "You were the best dancer out there." Zara looked between them. "Are you staying for dinner?" Bianca hesitated. Oliver stood. "Yeah, she is." They drove together in Oliver's car, the heater rattling and the radio stuck on one station. Bianca didn't complain. She tapped her fingers along with the beat and let Zara tell her everything she'd missed in the past week. At home, Oliver reheated leftover pasta and found 3 clean plates. It wasn't fancy, but Bianca sat at the table as if it were 5 stars. Later, after Zara fell asleep during a movie, Bianca stood near the door with her coat draped over one arm. "I meant what I said," she told him quietly. "I'm not trying to rescue you, I'm trying to build with you." He stepped closer. "And what if I don't know how? Then we figure it out together." He studied her face. "I didn't think someone like you could want someone like me." "I don't want someone like you," she said. "I want you." He kissed her again, slower this time, not hesitant, not unsure, just real. When he pulled back, she smiled, not polished, not posed, just soft and certain. "Tell me when you're ready to say yes." He nodded. "I think I already did." Bianca opened the door and stepped into the night, the envelope still on the table behind him. But Oliver didn't need to open it to know what it meant. For the first time in a long time, the future didn't feel like a wait. It felt like a promise. Oliver stood outside the café, the early morning air still clinging to the pavement. The sign above the door had gone up the day before the juniper table, carved into reclaimed wood, hung by black iron chains. It was small, warm-looking, with wide windows and planters full of fresh rosemary and basil, not flashy, not loud, just right. He unlocked the door, stepping into the space he'd spent the last 2 weeks helping prepare, painted walls soft with sage, mismatched tables donated from local families, a play nook in the corner with tiny chairs, and a cubby labeled Zara's Books. It felt like a place people would want to stay in when the world got too loud. Bianca had given him full reign over how it should run. She'd only stepped in when he asked for her input, and even then she'd deferred, letting him lead. He'd pulled together a dozen local bakers and home cooks, bartered with vendors for compostable cups, and set up a suspended coffee program where people could prepay for strangers who couldn't afford a cup. This was the kind of wealth he understood: community, dignity, purpose. He glanced at the clock, 2 hours to opening. The first soft launch, not a grand ribbon cutting with press coverage, just a quiet welcome. He turned on the lights, exhaled, and got to work. By the time Bianca arrived, the first pot of coffee was already brewed. She wore a soft gray sweater and trousers that looked like they'd seen more airports than boardrooms recently. Her hair was damp from the drizzle outside, and she carried 2 paper bags. "Quasas," she said, holding them out. "Fresh from that place on Elm." "The baker opens at 5. Oliver took one, biting into it as he leaned against the counter. "You didn't have to do a supply run." "I didn't. I just wanted to see the place before it filled up." He gestured around. "You helped make it happen. You get to see it whenever you want." She walked the room slowly, fingers trailing across tabletops, eyes pausing on the hand-painted signs and the chalkboard menu. "It feels like it belongs here, like it's always been here." "I think that's the goal." She turned to face him. "I got a call from the mayor's office yesterday. They want to feature the café in a city initiative about revitalizing community spaces." Oliver raised his eyebrows. "That's unexpected." I said yes, even though there's no PR team. "No brand alignment." I said yes, because I want people to see what happens when someone gets the tools they need. He swallowed around the lump in his throat. "You didn't make this happen. You just opened a door, I walked through it. That's what I've always admired about you. You walk through every damn door, even when it scares you." A small knock sounded behind them. Zara stood at the entrance, her raincoat dripping, hand in the grip of Mrs. Elkins, their neighbor. Oliver crossed the room quickly. "I thought you were going to stay home with Mrs. Elkins until noon." "I couldn't wait," Zara said, beaming. "I wanted to be here for the first day." He looked at the older woman who shrugged. She begged. "I figured it was worth making an exception." Bianca crouched. "I saved you the first pastry." Zara's eyes lit up. "With jam," triple berry. "They're going to love this place," Zara said through a mouthful after her first bite. "The chairs don't even wiggle." Oliver laughed. High praise. Over the next hour, the seats filled, first with neighbors, then with a few curious passers-by. Then with parents Oliver recognized from school drop-off. Every table buzzed with quiet conversation or laughter. A teenager offered a seat to an elderly man. Someone added 5 coffees to the suspended board. Zara read to a toddler while their mother wrote quietly in a notebook. Bianca watched it all from a corner table, a cup of mint tea in her hand, her eyes tracing Oliver's every move as he cleared dishes, refilled mugs, and offered second helpings of banana bread. After the café closed that afternoon, Oliver locked the doors and leaned against them, rubbing his eyes. "I haven't stood still since 7 this morning." Bianca walked over, resting her hip against the counter. "You were born to run a place like this." "I didn't know I was allowed to want something like this." "You are." He looked at her, careful, serious. "What about you?" "You're still flying to London next week." I postponed it. Postponed or canceled. Postponed. For now. He studied her face. "I don't want you to give up anything for me. I'm not." She stepped closer. "I'm choosing something." "There's a difference." Zara peeked from the back room, her unicorn backpack slung over one shoulder. "Can we go to the park now?" Oliver nodded. "Give me 5 minutes, kiddo." She disappeared again, and he turned back to Bianca. "You know what scares me most?" "What?" "That this is the part where it all falls apart, that I get used to you being here and then you're not." "I'm not going anywhere unless you ask me to." "I won't." "Good." He reached for her hand, fingers locking with hers. "You want to come with us to the park?" "I'd love to." Later that night, after Zara fell asleep with grass still tangled in her curls, Oliver stepped onto the stoop of their building. Bianca stood beside him, arms crossed, the city quiet around them. "You ever think about what this would have looked like if I hadn't spilled that coffee?" he asked, "all the time. Would we have met another way?" "I don't think so," she said honestly. "I wasn't looking, neither was I." She leaned into him, head on his shoulder. "Sometimes the universe shoves you face first into exactly what you need," he laughed, "with scalding hot coffee, effective if chaotic. I still don't understand how we got here." "You don't have to," she said. "You just have to keep showing up." "That's all I ever wanted." He looked down at her. "I could love you, you know." She didn't flinch. "I already do." He kissed her without hesitation this time. No fear, no uncertainty, just warmth and truth. The city moved around them, cars passing, lights blinking, but none of it mattered. Bianca Sullivan, the woman who once built empires from glass towers, had found something more permanent on a cracked sidewalk beside a man with calloused hands and a daughter who believed in fairy tales. And Oliver, who once thought he had nothing to offer, had discovered the quiet power of being loved exactly as he was. Together, they'd built something that couldn't be bought. And this time, he wasn't just walking through the door, he was holding it open for her, for Zara. For everything that came next, Oliver stood in front of the mirror in the cafe's tiny back office, fussing with the collar of the crisp white shirt Bianca had insisted he wear. The place was closed for the day, an unusual break in the now thriving business, but tonight wasn't about lattes or local pastries. It was about something else entirely. He heard her voice before he saw her. Stop touching it. You'll wrinkle the whole front. Bianca leaned in the doorway, wearing a deep green dress that hit just below her knees, elegant but simple. Her hair was swept back, a single gold pin holding it in place. Her heels were low, practical. Even dressed like this, she carried herself with the same quiet composure she always had, but now it felt softer, less armor and more grace. I still don't understand why we couldn't just go to a restaurant, he said, turning to face her. Because this is where it started. And it's where it should be. He stepped closer. You didn't tell me who's coming. I'm getting nervous. You'll be fine. Just answer questions honestly and smile when you don't know what to say. I don't do well with surprises. You'll like this one. Before he could respond, the front door opened and a voice called out, Is this where the future happens? Zara bounded in, holding hands with a tall woman Oliver didn't recognize. Her ballet shoes peeked out from beneath the hem of her skirt, and her backpack had been replaced with a small, glittery purse. Bianca moved to greet them. You made it, the woman smiled. Wouldn't miss it. She didn't stop talking about it the entire car ride. Zara ran to Oliver. Daddy, guess what? Miss Bianca asked me to help with the surprise. Did she now? The woman stepped forward and extended her hand. I'm Cynthia. I run the literacy foundation Bianca's been working with. She said you're the one who came up with the idea for the reading corner. Oliver shook her hand. It was just something I thought might keep kids entertained while their parents drank coffee. Well, it's now part of our citywide initiative. We're rolling it out to 5 more spaces next month. Bianca's team is funding the rollout. He turned to Bianca. You didn't tell me that. I wanted you to hear it from someone else. It's your idea. It should be your moment. Cynthia stepped aside, revealing a man with a camera and a young woman holding a notepad. Oliver blinked. What is this? Press, Bianca said casually. Just a small article, local coverage. He glanced around, a little overwhelmed. I thought you said this was just dinner. It is, with a little celebration woven in. Zara tugged his hand. Come on. There's more. She pulled him toward the main floor where a projector had been set up. Photos played in a slow loop. The early days of the café, community events, kids reading in the corner, even one of Zara handing a cookie to an elderly woman. Bianca's voice came from behind him. We didn't just build a business. We built a space where people feel seen. You did that. And I wanted everyone to know. He turned back to her. You're not doing this for publicity. No, I'm doing this because you changed my life, Oliver. And I want the world to see what happens when love builds something instead of ambition. He searched her face. You used to talk about control like it was your armor. I don't need armor anymore. He stepped forward, taking both her hands. I keep waiting to wake up and find out this was all some weird dream. Then let me make it feel real. She reached into her clutch and pulled out a small velvet box. I was going to wait until after dinner, but I'm not great with patience. Oliver blinked, stunned. Is that? She opened it. Inside was a simple platinum band, no diamonds, no inscription, just clean, elegant promise. I don't need a ceremony or a big crowd, I just need you, and Zara, and a life that feels like this. He stared at her, speechless. Zara piped up, You're supposed to say something, Daddy. He crouched beside her, lifting her into his arms. What do you think? You okay with Miss Bianca being around forever? As long as we can all live in the same house, and she makes pancakes. Bianca laughed. I can promise the house. The pancakes might be a joint effort. Oliver looked at the ring again, then back at Bianca. Yes, of course, yes. She slipped it onto his finger, no fanfare, no applause, just a quiet, steady joy that filled the space between them. Later that night, after the guests had gone and Zara had fallen asleep curled up in a pile of spare cushions, Bianca and Oliver sat on the cafe's front steps. The street was quiet, the neon sign casting a soft glow across the sidewalk. "I never thought I'd fall in love with someone who didn't come from my world," she said. "I never thought someone like you would make room in their world for me." "We didn't make room," she replied. "We made something new." He looked at her. "Do you regret anything?" "Only that I didn't spill coffee on you sooner," he laughed, pulling her close. "You're the best mistake I ever made." They sat in silence for a while, the kind that didn't need to be filled, and when he finally kissed her, it wasn't tentative or unsure. It was solid, familiar, a promise sealed with a sigh. Months passed. The café grew, as did their life together. Zara started first grade, and her teacher noted that she always brought extra snacks just in case someone forgot theirs. Oliver and Bianca bought a home nearby, modest by her standards, perfect by his. He built shelves in every room. She filled them with books. They never had a grand wedding. Just a picnic in the park with a few friends, Zara in a flower crown and Bianca barefoot in a linen dress. They said their vows under a tree with peeling bark and a knot shaped like a heart, and when Bianca whispered, "Thank you for finding me," Oliver only smiled. "I didn't find you," he said. "You were always there. I just finally looked up." They walked home hand in hand, Zara skipping ahead, the three of them framed by a sky that had never looked so wide or so full of promise.